There was examples of it in other parts of law, in the Old Testament, the Greek and the Roman examples of that. And by 1215 AD, you get to see a bit of a reform movement taking place. The Magna Carta declares that fines cannot deprive a free man of his livelihood. So it's kind of like an anti-excessive fine reform. And then, of course, we have the persecution of the Catholics around the same time, ranging everywhere from fines to total confiscation of property and, of course, death. You have a list by the 17th century of all the forfeiture-type crimes, including murder, manslaughter, witchcraft, larceny, abduction of an heiress with intent to marry her, forgery of a deed or testimonial, transportation of a sheep, and malicious cutting of another man's tongue or his eyes. Included in that list, of course, was witchcraft, and part of, again, the history of witchcraft includes a lot of the use of entheogens, including cannabis. So there's some historical parallels again there. The very famous case of the Salem in the United States involved some property seizure, and although it wasn't cannabis, there was some evidence that they were getting high off ergot, which is where we get LSD from, so they're kind of high anyways and getting their stuff taken away from them as a result. Then we have in 1689, Parliament passes the English Bill of Rights, and it contains a prohibition against excessive fines. Again, like the Magna Carta, a bit of reform there. In 1878, in Dobbin's Distillery versus the United States, the U.S. Supreme Court allows the government to seize real estate associated with moonshining. And ever since then, you saw people's stills getting taken away during Prohibition. Also, around that time in 1913, Nevada legislature empowers police to confiscate and dispose of weapons taken from individuals charged with crimes. So then we get into the area of World War II, and around that time, the big seizures of property, the big forfeiture laws were the Nazi ones that started with the Hitler Decree of 1934 and, went on from there, worse and worse every year. And again, they cut more and more people in to finding Jews, the more and more finding Jews they had. Again, the other big forfeiture fury around the same time was Japanese internment in Canada and the United States. And again, from June 17th, 1940, if Japanese aliens residing in the United States had traveled outside the continental United States at any time since June 17th, 1940, their assets were frozen. Then we get into 1970. The U.S. Congress enacts the Racketeer Influenced and Corruption Organization Act, the RICO Act, which contains an asset forfeiture provision. 1978, Congress expanded the laws to permit forfeiture of all monies used in or acquired from the illegal drug trade and authorized the forfeiture of real property in 1984. In 1983, Nevada legislature approves Nevada's first civil forfeiture statute. Bill is sponsored by Assemblyman Mark Maloney, Democrat, Las Vegas, who also serves in the patrol division of the Metropolitan Police Department. How convenient. And in 1988, a law enforcement coalition consisting of the Attorney General and the 4 county prosecutors and police chiefs proposed that a new uniform forfeiture law be enacted, HB number 2080, which became Act 260 of Hawaii, 1988. It was based on the state of Arizona's forfeiture law in 1986. And you can see how in the United States it just keeps getting worse year after year. Court case after court case, 1993 in the United States versus James Daniel Good, real property. A divided United States Supreme Court determines that seizure of real property without a hearing violates the Due Process Clause of the United States Constitution. 1996, Nevada Supreme Court, relying on Good, issues its decision in Livingston versus Washoe County. It finds the seizure of a defendant's property after conviction violates the Double Jeopardy Clause of the U.S. Constitution. So again, some more evidence of reform. In 1996, with an 8-1 ruling in the United States versus Usury, the U.S. Supreme Court declares that civil forfeitures did not constitute punishment for purposes of the Double Jeopardy Clause. In 1998, at the request of Washoe County, the Nevada Supreme Court reverses its earlier ruling in Livingston to bring Nevada Clause into conformity with Usury. In 1998, in United States versus Badgekan, I obviously slayed that one, but the U.S. Supreme Court rules that forfeitures must be proportional to the offense and not violate the excessive fine clause in the U.S. Constitution. So, again, you got to argue that it's proportional and not excessive in the United States. In Canada, one more thing of note. Some have proposed splitting the proceeds of forfeitures with those citizens who turn in drug dealers, an idea quite similar to British practice of rewarding customs informants and agents. In 1989, U.S. Congressman Dick Schultz proposed H.R. 3346, the Bounty Hunter Act. Those who supplied the names of drug pushers would be rewarded by receiving 50% of the value as moiety of all assets seized by the government. So again, letting even irregular people like Crime Stoppers get the proceeds of the crime. One police department in Florida paid to have printed in the local newspaper a coupon encouraging citizens to clip the coupon and send in the names of persons involved in the drug trade. While informants are certainly necessary in any attempt to deal with crime problems, these proposals come quite close to encouraging vigilantism. Canadians' forfeiture laws really began in earnest in 1996 with Bill C-7. Widens the police and enforcement powers in regard to search, seizure, or forfeiture of drug-related or drug offense suspicion-related person or place, it says in the House of Commons. It introduced numerous and wide-ranging changes related to powers of search. That was Bill C-17, early in 1997. And again in 1997, this is all happening at the same time. 13 integrated proceeds of crime, IPOC units, were established in Canada that combined the resources and expertise of RCMP, local and provincial police officers, Canadian Customs and Revenue Agency officers, Crown Counsel and forensic accountants. These units targeted organized crime groups and seized their ill-gotten assets, over $140 million worth so far. To date, over $70 million in forfeitures and fines have been realized. Well, they're doing great. And then Bill C-95, enacted in 1997, the biker gang laws encouraged that further. Bill C-8 came out in May 1997. Bill C-20 came out in 1999. Increased the criminal code powers for seizure and forfeiture of proceeds. Bill C-40 involved extradition. Bill C-22 in 2000 involved money laundering. And it says here that Canada is also working in the G8, the United Nations, and the Organization of American States to develop and promote international standards to combat transnational crime and organized crime in particular. A global convention on transnational organized crime will be completed in the UN in the year 2000. Agreements to address people smuggling, trafficking in women and children, and firearms trafficking are also being developed. So again, this is an international movement that is being pushed by the United Nations, which is heavily influenced by the United States and the corporations inside the United States to further the drug war, encourage the police officers to go after more people, spend more resources going after more people, and actually get more resources to put towards going after more people so that they can hire half of us essentially to lock up and watch the other half of us. And that's the ultimate divide and conquer scheme, and it's got to end. So along with the end of all the Canadian cannabis laws, which is imminent, if it doesn't happen through Rogan, it might happen through the Kane, Clay, and malmo-levine appeals, will end the forfeiture of any property related to cannabis, and then we'll work on those other drugs one at a time, and maybe one day finally live in a world where the government can't steal your stuff unless you're harming somebody and you're harming people with that stuff. I think that's probably a better line to draw than the scapegoats who don't have any evidence of harmful activity to society or to others. Those scapegoats just having their stuff taken away from them year after year, even if they replace one scapegoat with another. Theft is theft, and even though I'm a libertarian socialist, I do believe in some property rights. Your toothbrush